Clearly no plans and no ideas from the government benches. Only 3 weeks out and all we're hearing about is the Finance Minister, Bill English, preparing this country for cuts. That's about as visionary as it gets from the opposite benches, preparing the people for funding cuts in this budget. And that's what it's all about. And what New Zealanders are starting to ask themselves is, how come that government's got this country in such a big mess so quickly? Because they've hardly been in the Treasury benches and suddenly we are facing big budget cuts coming up. And the other question that people are asking is, and Mr Quinn might want to listen to this, why is it that other countries are recovering much more quickly from the global crisis than what New Zealand is? That's the question that New Zealanders are asking as we lead into Budget 2010, because it's starting to drop now. The penny's starting to drop. They're starting to work it out that that government has no plans and no ideas, and that everything that they have done to date has actually put us in a worse position than when we started from. Because don't forget that this country had 9 years of a Labor government where we ran surpluses. And even when that party was baying for tax cuts to happen, what was Labor saying? No, we're going to save it for a rainy day. We're going to save it for a rainy day. And that rainy day arrived, and when it did, National was in government, and they have now put us in a very bad position, even though Labor had us in the position where we had saved for that rainy day. So they started ahead of the pack in the OECD when the global crisis hit, and we're coming out of the end of it in a much worse position than when we started. And that is Bill English and John Key who have to stand up and be accountable for that. And in about 3 weeks' time they will. And what's their response going to be? Well, it's going to be to cut funding. And where are the areas that we know funding is going to be cut to? Well, it seems today, in the last week, it seems that we've learned that it's early childhood education. Early childhood education once was high priority for that government. That's what John Key used to say. All of his speeches used to say early childhood education, a high priority for this government. But suddenly that sentence has dropped out of all of his speeches. And what's it been replaced with? It's been replaced with Bill English saying, actually it's too costly. We spend far too much on early childhood education in this country and something has to be cut. Well, that is the slippery slope for early childhood education. And there is no point with that government going on about improving standards in education while cutting costs in early childhood education sector. Because they keep saying that they want to improve participation. They want to improve participation in early childhood education. Then how come this week Bill English is suddenly saying that he wants to contain costs? How on earth can that government grow the sector and contain costs? Well, Paul Quinn, I think these are the questions you ought to be asking in your caucus meeting, because it's people in your area who are going to suffer. Because it can't possibly be true that the government's going to increase participation, improve participation in early childhood education and contain costs without the cost shifting to parents and shifting to families. And that will be round two during this budget, because we already know, it's already well signalled by the government, that families are going to face increasing costs with GST. That's going up 20% increase in the cost of everything in terms of the taxation on everything that families pay for. And now they're starting to learn that parents are going to face increasing costs in early childhood education. And yet the government won't come clean on it. Well, I don't think it's acceptable, Mr Speaker, 3 weeks out from a budget, for the Minister of Finance to be saying that there are going to be cuts, but not telling the country what those cuts will be. Because families have to make decisions, and I don't think the national government understands this. Every week in this country, families make decisions about what they are going to spend their money on. Is it going to be the food bill, and we know that's increasing, GST up, the taxation's going up by 20% on every single food item? Is it going to be the mortgage that they're going to be putting more money into it? Is it going to be rental? I don't think they're even thinking about holidays under this government, because every penny is going to count. And now they don't know what costs they are going to face, what increasing costs they are going to face in early childhood education.
Melissa Lee.